Around the time when I first joined Facebook, someone I knew only as an acquaintance came up to me and started talking to me about my grandson. I was a little creeped out. I hadn't seen or talked to her in a long time. How did she know those things? But as soon as she reminded me that I posted it on Facebook, I was instantly relieved. Now I preface comments even to my friends with, "I saw on Facebook that you..." Life changes rapidly, but the principles behind ethical behavior do not. Hi, I'm Jennifer Filla, your Prospect Research Institute guide. This video talks about ethical prospect research fundraising practices. Are you ready? Let's get ethical. Throughout this video, we are going to try to put ourselves in the shoes of the donor who makes it possible to achieve our organization's mission. Sometimes a donor's reaction to hearing about prospect research is less than flattering. In this video, we are going to ask and answer 3 questions about privacy and prospect research. And by the end of this video, you too should be able to answer questions about prospect research with assurance and guide your organization in applying prospect research techniques ethically. Question number 1. What kind of information is being collected about donors like me? Organizations receive gifts from donors and record this information. For some organizations, the gift amount and contact information provided by the payment method is the only information collected systematically. But many organizations also record personal information learned through direct contact with their donors. This might be through telephone conversations, in-person visits, or even surveys. Many organizations also collect information from electronic wealth screenings, where a file is exported from the donor database and sent to a vendor. The vendor finds public information, such as real estate and stock ownership, and matches it to the donors in the file. Organizations hire prospect researchers because we are skilled at finding and analyzing external and internal information to identify new prospects and inform other staff members to help them effectively and respectfully visit and cultivate donor prospects. Question number 2. Even if it is legal, is it ethical to collect this personal information? Prospect researchers are limited to information found in the public domain. For example, a person's social security number, bank account details, and other personal data are not legally available to a researcher or an information vendor. It is definitely legal for organizations to gather information about their donors from the mouths of their donors and from the public domain, including information vendors. But once the information is all compiled in one place, it can be a shock to see just how much we can know about a person. Because of this, sometimes people question whether it is ethical to gather and keep all of this personal information. Let's start with the legal concerns and talk about how legal and ethical concerns might overlap. There are 4 legal areas of concern for privacy generally. Appropriation and intrusion are the least likely to be violated by prospect research. Most people understand that pretending to be your donor and calling her bank asking for the trust account balance, which is appropriation, or peeking in the windows of your donor's house, which is intrusion, are just plain wrong. And if they don't understand that, you probably have some human resource issues. But public disclosure of private facts and the publication of facts that place a person in a false light can be quite tricky. For example, more and more court documents are finding their way into Google search results. What if you found a document detailing a messy inheritance dispute? There could be a lot of he said, she said gossip, even in a court document. The fact that some family members do not get along is likely to be all you need to say. That appears to be fact. The details about the assets are also facts. Asset information gives you a better idea of what size gift to ask for, and that's relevant. Finding a past traffic violation, or even 5 of them, really has nothing to do with whether your donor prospect will make a gift. All it really means is that your donor prospect likely drives too fast. Hardly relevant, but very public. What was that? Did you say something? Yes, you are correct. Traffic violations could be very relevant if they are for drunk driving and your organization happens to be Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Privacy and ethics are not exact. They require you to be thinking on your feet. Another human mistake is to believe everything we read. I was given a prospect to research, and it turned out that her business was a telemarketing company. Newspaper articles and numerous websites and online forums did not have many good things to say about this telemarketing business. Heck, even I don't like to be called while eating dinner, but after looking carefully, it was clear that there were no judgments or other violations by the company. It is so important to read and write carefully about our donor prospects to avoid shining a false light. The Association of Professional Researchers for Advancement, affectionately known as APRA, has a statement of ethics for prospect research. I encourage you to go online and read it. At first glance, some of the important points may seem obvious, but let's take a closer look. Integrity, no pretending or misleading. It can be very tempting to use your personal email address when requesting information about a prospect so that your organization name isn't obvious. Don't do it. If you feel funny about inquiring, you probably shouldn't be inquiring at all. Accountability, using discretion and being appropriate. Just for a minute, pretend you are the donor prospect. How would you feel after reading your profile or reviewing your database record? Uncomfortable or flattered? We want to tell the good and truthful story about our donors. Practice. Make sure your information is accurate. It's a best practice to check information against more than one source and to be aware of document dates. It's also important to understand the difference between primary and secondary sources. Sometimes I want to cast these words in bronze. Wikipedia is not a primary source. It is a nicely organized and annotated guide. Be careful that the sources you use, online and offline, are accurate and as close to the origin of the information as possible. Conflicts of interest. If the donor prospect is your family member, or you have inside information from your last employment, or if there is anything else that smells like a conflict, you must get it out in the open. Question number 3. Once an organization has this personal information, how is it protected? You really should have at least a privacy policy, and beyond that, policies around data protection. Stories about organizations posting sensitive data online by mistake or sharing sensitive information inadvertently have become more and more common. Don't let your organization be one of those headlines. Visit supportingadvancement.com or the APRA or Association of Fundraising Professionals websites and get some help to create your own policies. At the very least, you should restrict access to your donor database. This is pretty basic. Not every staff member needs to see gift or other information about your donors. And don't forget your paper files. They should be kept locked too. And specifically, your organization should be safeguarding gift information. Unless the donor consents, you may not release gift information to the public. Yes, really. Make sure every staff member in your organization has clarity on this. You should also protect all the information you collect about your donors and prospects as a whole, in whatever form. It could be in your database or on paper. It includes prospect profiles, wealth screening results, and even rankings and ratings. Keeping your donors' information safe and secure helps your donors trust you, and trusting donors are the ones who make gifts. If you remember nothing else about privacy and prospect research, I hope you will remember this rule of thumb. The only purpose for the researched information is to help you develop a deeper relationship with your prospects and donors. That means that no matter what kind of information, if it will not further the fundraising relationship, and especially if it has the potential to damage the relationship, it should be abandoned. Thank you for joining me at the Prospect Research Institute today to learn about ethics and privacy in prospect research. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I sure did.